Wow, the NFL just got an unexpected blockbuster, and it's not what most of us were expecting. However, there could be a silver lining for the Eagles with the perfect target following the aftermath of the Jalen Ramsey trade. In this video, I'll discuss why a potential move for a tight end makes sense, along with going over DeVonta Smith's latest comments about which rookie he expects to stand out. So let's talk about that, an under-the-radar weapon to keep your eye on, and everything else around the birds. But first, let's run it. What's up, guys? Well, typically at this point in the summer, not much is going on, but we just got a massive blockbuster trade, and it means a little bit for the Eagles. After the news dropped that the Miami Dolphins agreed to send three-time All-Pro quarterback Jalen Ramsey, a 7th-round pick, and tight end Jonnu Smith to the Pittsburgh Steelers for three-time All-Pro safety Minkah Fitzpatrick and a 5th-round pick.
You're making that up. That's not even a...
I know, caught me by surprise too, and we can argue about how or why this makes sense, but there's a bigger implication here, at least a possibility that kind of opens up for the Eagles, which I'll get to in just a little bit. Either way, the Steelers are loading up in the AFC North arms race because seeing the Baltimore Ravens acquire Jaire Alexander and realizing just how close you could be to another championship can make some people almost unrecognizable.
Precious!
It also probably doesn't help seeing another team in the same state celebrate winning a Super Bowl. Which, on that note, the Eagles will be getting their Super Bowl championship rings on July 18th, 4 days before training camp begins. And judging by how the previous ring reveal went after 2017, it sounds like we're going to be getting a lot of extra footage from the squad, so mark your calendars to check out the hardware. By the way, I know several of the guys already admitted to being psychos for that even hungrier mentality, but something tells me once they actually see the rings, they're going to take it to a different level.
I want another one.
I'm telling you, getting that taste of the first one is the worst thing that could have happened to the rest of the NFL. Heck, and that doesn't even get into Cooper DeJean, which he basically everything he does is winning at. Like the DeVonta Smith celebrity softball game that unfortunately I wasn't able to attend due to a scheduling conflict, but to no surprise, it was the exciting White himself that was very noticeably the most popular jersey at the event. Something DeVonta noticed and had an easy answer for.
I don't want to see it. Well, I see it. No, he's a white guy playing DB, so you know it doesn't happen often. So you know when it does happen, you know everybody loves it.
It only makes sense then for the 22-year-old to win the home run derby thanks to 14 home runs and beating out Isaiah Rodgers, who finished in second with 10. Where then afterward, Coop followed up that performance by taking home the softball game MVP because, again, is there anything DeJean can't do? Seriously, I'm curious, has there ever been anyone more popular before playing 10 regular season games in NFL history? I mean, this dude only played 9 regular season games last year. Granted, yes, the playoffs and then the Super Bowl performance clearly elevated him to almost legend status, with even the smallest of interactions making Eagles fans somewhat delirious.
It's a thrill just to be talking to you on our speakerphone.
Anyway, speaking of standing out, we did get some noteworthy news following Smitty's softball game, with DeVonta being asked which rookie stood out to him the most so far and him naming safety Andrew Mukuba.
The guy from was it Texas, the safety. Mukuba. Yeah. I couldn't say his name. So.
All right, so what that he couldn't say Mukuba's name? The more important aspect is that DeVonta noticed the rookie, saying you can tell by the way he moves and goes about his business that he's someone to keep an eye out for. Of course, Mukuba's got some work ahead of him to try and win the starting job, but it's great initial news just to be noticed and get the nod from one of the best receivers in the NFL. Now, when it comes to the biggest surprise players for the Birds, ESPN's Tim McManus listed a guy that I've been talking about for a while, and that being San Francisco 49ers former 3rd-round pick wide receiver Danny Gray, with McManus noting that Gray without question made a big impression during OTAs and minicamp, sharing that his 4.33 speed is almost immediately noticeable and corners will struggle to keep pace if they lose a step. Again, that's why I made a video talking about Gray already living up to some hype while also listing him as a guy to seriously consider for the wide receiver 4 spot. After all, if he can stay healthy, the 26-year-old is a guy that Nick Sirianni's mentioned multiple times as adding a unique element to the offense. Yet there's actually another player in Avery Williams that could have the upper hand in that battle. But before we get there, I want to talk to you guys about the sponsor of today's video, Mave. Because I've talked about them in the past, but we've noticed a real difference in our dogs since giving them a try. For real, Dunkin' Donut absolutely loved the switch to Mave, and they've shown a huge improvement in their mood, energy, and allergies over the couple months since making the switch. Which is not really that surprising when you think about it, because Mave is one of the only human-grade protein-rich raw foods for dogs made with real ingredients you can see and name just by looking. Meaning no fillers, no additives, and the best part is that it doesn't require any prep. I'm telling you, just like my own personal health, how I eat affects my behavior and energy levels and just about everything else. However, not gonna lie, I was curious if we'd actually see a noticeable difference when it came to our dogs. But Dunk, our chocolate lab, had some serious digestive issues before this, and now thankfully they're completely gone. Just saying, there's a reason 90% of dog parents see health improvements in those areas, along with a strengthened immune system, a healthier coat, cleaner teeth, and fresher breath. As I've said in the past, and I'm sure that you can attest, being a dog parent is the best, so scan the QR code and give them the food that they deserve. FYI, you can also click the link in the description and use code PHILLYSPECIAL to get up to 20% off your first order. Again, that's code PHILLYSPECIAL to get 20% off your first order with Maeve.
Obviously, the things that he brings in special teams is huge. And, you know, again, I'm excited about all that he can bring with the versatility he has offensively, offensively, and all the things that he can do. Again, just my interaction with him was top-notch, and I'm really excited to start working with him.
All right, unfortunately, Avery Williams missed significant time at OTAs due to an injury, but with training camp right around the corner, I'm looking forward to see the different alignments, what Philly uses him as, listed as a wide receiver, has played running back, previously even cornerback, special teams specialist there. I mean, the sky's the limit for him. Now, first and foremost, the intrigue is on special teams. Because for as good as the Eagles were last season, special teams is an area that they could definitely improve. So yeah, taking Atlanta's return specialist from last season, who returned 20 punts for 185 yards and 15 kickoffs for 408 yards, is certainly worth the risk. And yeah, those numbers are pretty good. It's nothing like crazy, but they're pretty good. They're better than if you compare them to last season, the Eagles, but I think it's more so just the potential and the upside that you have with Williams. Remember, before suffering a season-ending knee injury in 2023, Williams led the NFL in punt returns with an average of 16.2. Heck, prior to that, this dude tied the NCAA record for most return touchdowns in college with 9 at Boise State, along with blocking multiple kicks and making first-team all-conference in the Mountain West. So like Anthony DeBona wrote recently on a film study of the guy, Avery Williams can truly do it all, since he used to be a cornerback, like I mentioned, but then made the transition to running back in 2022, where he then recorded 35 total touches for 170 yards and 1 touchdown. And although it's been nearly 3 years since Williams has played an offensive snap, it's obvious that Sirianni is intrigued to see what he can bring to the table. Like, despite the small sample size, the 26-year-old averaged 5 yards per carry as a running back, while also showcasing some mismatch ability in the slot. So just think about it. With a shifty guy like Williams in the slot, we do know how much Sirianni prefers or loves the passing games and screens.
Yeah, that's what I'm afraid of.
Fine, at the very least, like Anthony referenced, Williams will be an upgrade at kick returner, and offers a lot more explosiveness as a punt returner. Oh yeah, he's also never muffed a punt or kick return in his NFL career. Just saying, it's no wonder that Williams is a fan favorite when it comes to under-the-radar players, and obviously, as we've seen and heard, is certainly a Sirianni favorite as well. To be fair, you're right, this could be one of those hype-up-a-gadget player in the offseason, only to basically not use them at all during the season type of situations. Yet if Sirianni hasn't changed there, Lane Johnson has noticed an evolution in his head coach.
I think he's evolved, as he's become a head coach. There's things, he had some vocal stuff on the sidelines, but, he's addressed stuff with the team when he's wrong. And I think that makes him human, makes him vulnerable. And I think it makes guys, communicate more effectively with him.
Kudos to Sirianni for the new contract. It is absolutely well-deserved, and he deserves the benefit of the doubt moving forward. By the way, I'm referencing those that think Sirianni resting players for the preseason or having issues with training camp designs in the past has caused slower starts in Philly. Because shout out to Reuben Frank, but under Sirianni in the first 3 weeks of a season since 2021, the Eagles are 9-3, which for the record, that's tied with the Buffalo Bills for the best record in the NFL through week 3 during that span. I think sometimes it feels like the team has got a slow start or a sluggish start because we're early in the year and they're not really playing up to their full potential. But I mean, if we're being honest, no team is really playing up to their full potential 3 weeks into the season. Still, one of those games the Birds might be up for a little bit more in week 3 is when they host the Los Angeles Rams, since a lot of critics try to point out that Philly got lucky to beat the Rams in the playoffs.
What? What an idiot! Oh, what a loser! Good.
Exactly, yet it's kind of ironic to see Jared Verse actually hyping up or at least giving some credit, some credence to the Eagles and our fans, because that's not what he was doing before the playoff game last year. When the Defensive Rookie of the Year said he hated Eagles fans and that they're the worst back in January, only to change his tune just a few days ago, admitting the Eagles have the best opposing fan base, due to things like them being aggressive, loud, and always standing by their team. while also trying to say very disrespectful stuff. On one hand, he's not wrong, but I also can't help but to wonder, is he trying to soften the blow for his teammates, especially after what happened last season? I mean, let's not forget, Verse played really well in the playoff game, although I can't imagine his teammates appreciated him making their lives more of a nightmare than it needed to be.
Do you realize what you've done?
I don't know, there's a fine line when it comes to smack talk, and depending on who you ask, it's not really that big of a deal. Granted, I got a kick out of Brandon Graham throwing shade at Washington's new wide receiver Deebo Samuel.
Y'all about to say, we coming, we got Deebo. It's gonna be between us two. I wouldn't worry about him. He gotta be in shape first. He don't look like he in shape right now.
I can't help but laugh because somewhere you know that Deebo Samuel got wind of that and was off crying because there's a little bit of truth in that statement. Like seriously, the latest clips from Commanders OTAs make you question just what kind of 40 time he'd actually run nowadays.
I want another try. Here we go. 31! 31!
By the way, in case you missed it, there's some odd timing to the most recent post from Samuel of him running some routes and getting work in. So it does feel like BG struck a nerve and the wideout wanted to try and prove to people that he's still got that twitch. Honestly, I'm not that concerned. Remember, I covered this in a previous video. It has a whole lot to do with age. But when it comes to Deebo Samuel, the Commanders, yes, they can be a good team, but I'm not incredibly concerned or this, bulletin board material is going to come back to bite us. Plus, Saquon Barkley admitted this past weekend that every time he plays Dallas and Washington, he's got a little extra motivation since neither team showed any interest at all back when he was on the market. Granted, all three teams in the NFC East can't stop the run, so the division theoretically sets up well to run it back again. After all, the Eagles probably have like 9 guys in the NFL's top 100. FYI, the full list is slowly getting revealed, so I'll keep you posted as we get official updates, but it's going to be crazy to see Saquon Barkley jump like 80 spots into the top 5. I'm curious though, any wild predictions or guesses for who ends up making it in the top 20 out of the Eagles players? Alright, while you're throwing in your take there, let me get to this Steelers trade that presents an opportunity for Philly. So first off, the fact that Pittsburgh came away with Jalen, Ramsey, and Jonnu Smith is definitely in favor of them winning that trade. Now, we could argue about how they're going to play Darius Slay, Joey Porter Jr., and Jalen Ramsey, but that's not really the point. Pittsburgh is going all in and now have some surplus to consider. Of course, I've seen some rumors and thoughts about Grant Calcaterra because Miami is apparently now looking for a tight end, even though they just traded away Jonnu Smith, but they're looking for a tight end. I don't really see that happening, though, with Calcaterra. I think he's set as tight end, too. For me, though, what this comes down to is Steelers tight end Darnell Washington. Think about it. Pittsburgh now has Pat Freiermuth and Jonnu Smith, leaving Howie Roseman to potentially add an elite blocking tight end who happens to be a Philly Dawg. And at 6'7", 275 pounds, Washington would help solidify that third spot while also potentially being groomed into more of a long-term player. Remember, the Eagles don't have a single tight end signed beyond this season. So looking at Washington's contract, if Howie were to make a move for him, it's an incredibly small cap hit of $1.7 million, plus he'd be locked up through 2026. Look, we saw a similar multiple-year move from Howie last season when it came to Jihaad, and we've also seen him go for athletic freaks like Albert O to try and make something work in the past at tight end. Now, on the flip side of the argument is Pittsburgh may not even be willing to move on from him since they still need a third guy with Donald Parham Jr. out for the season, and that's not to mention Aaron Rodgers recently hyping up Washington for losing some weight to help with his route running, along with Rodgers comparing him to Mercedes Lewis. Who knows, the likelihood of this deal getting done is still probably less than 50%. But I can guarantee you Howie Roseman is working the phones to at least see what it cost.
One thing that I can promise our fans is that there will not be a player that's available that we won't study, that we won't look at and see if it can help the team. Sometimes those opportunities work and you're able to do that, and sometimes they don't.
Honestly, I'm just glad we could put the Jalen Ramsey rumors to rest because we could clearly tell this already, but Kelee Ringo is their guy. But you guys let me know your thoughts on this, the crazy NFL trade. How does it impact the Eagles, if at all? As always, make sure to hit the like button if you haven't already. Subscribe, turn the notifications on. I'll catch you on the next one. This has been the Philly Special.